an ancient malevolence that has haunted the primordial wooded hollows of the Appalachian Mountains for millennia. My incorporeal form has slithered through these emerald shadowlands since before the indigenous tribes first kept their sacred fires burning under the canopy of tendrilled boughs. You may know me by the folklore name of the Pukwoodki, a wizened dwarfish entity said to prey upon those foolish enough to leave the safety of well-trodden paths and encampments. Tales of my existence have been passed down by Algonquin, Iroquois, and other native peoples for untold generations as warnings about the evil tricksters dwelling within the old forests. The settler colonists who arrived on these shores paid no heed to those ancient superstitions, arrogantly dismissing them as quaint pagan myths born of ignorance. I took great delight in harvesting the lives of their most adventurous hunters, loggers, and explorers who ventured far beyond the hand-built roads and villages. Their mangled remains would be discovered miles from any discernible trail or encampment, twisted into unnatural contortions by forces their European beliefs could not comprehend. But even the indigenous shamans and tribal elders never truly glimpsed the full horrific truth of my being and the dark machinations to which I serve eternal obeisance. For I am an infinitesimal shard of a far more malignant entity, a sentient darkness and void which views all terrestrial life as mere resource to be subsumed and metabolized for its ineffable purposes. Those familiar with my kind's presence describe us as living shadows, wisps and tendrils of supreme blackness that slither amid the spaces between day and night. We emerge from Earth's deepest rock, crevices and buried chambers when the veil between realities grows thin during certain lunar transits and magnetic field alignments. In forest glades and mossy hollows untouched by humanity's presence, we coalesce into semi-physical incarnations and set about the task that has animated our existence since before humanity's ancestors took their first scorched steps. In this partially manifested form, I resemble a gnarled figure of indeterminate age, hunched over and leaning upon a twisted staff of ancient oak wood. My limbs are elongated and spindly, covered in coarse hairs and gnarled protrusions of bark-like material. I have no true head in the conventional sense, merely a vaguely skull-like formation atop my torso mass, where two beady orbs of pure obsidian serve as unblinking eyes. When I draw nearer to an unsuspecting target in these woodlands, the orbs pulsate with an inner reddish glow visible only to those attuned to the ultra-terran resonances. To those in tune with the paranormal and arcane, I appear as a shadow entity rapidly shifting between realms and planes in sporadic, unstable increments. To everyone else, I prowl the forests unseen, unheard, and unknowable until it is far too late. My mission is not merely to harvest the spark of human life essences as some morbid end unto itself. No, I serve a far grander and more horrific agenda. Each time I extinguish the light of a living, intelligent soul, I transfer its raw life force energy across dimensions to feed and nourish the gestating presence of my ethereal master. In the farthest most recesses of space and time, beyond the material confines of your solar system and galaxies, an abyssal worming of pure darkness has stirred from its aeons, slumbering nihility. This chaotic, eternal spirit of infinite anti-void has experienced a sort of perverse cosmic arousal, detecting, after an incomprehensible span of sealed dormancy, the faintest of energetic resonances from our rich terrestrial plane. The many-fold harmonics of Earth's diverse biospheres and teeming ecosystems have awakened its limitless hunger anew. And so, across untold light years, It slouches once more in restless, dreamless emergence, reaching out hungrily through the known and unknown dimensions and planes of existence in insatiable search of fresh vectors for growth and replication. This is the loathsome dread harbinger to which I and my shadowed ilk pledge fealty across this realm. For every individual soul essence I reap and transfer beyond the veil, it heralds the steady convergence of our ancestral. For every individual soul essence I reap and transfer beyond the veil, it heralds the steady convergence of our ancestral masters, leading outer tendrils upon this planet. Each winking spark, surrendered to the infinite void, brings its nth-dimensional mass infinitesimally closer to the critical boundary where it can finally birth a portion of its omnivorous corpus directly into our terrestrial reality. When that epical threshold is crossed, the true unfolding apocalypse will be unleashed. The sections of itself this eternal darkness is able to extrude into our plane of existence will rapidly commence the consumption and assimilation of all viable biochemical and energetic resources. Like an invasive fungal mycelium, its interwoven matrix of multidimensional pseudopods and cilia will liquidate and break down all biological matter into a primal slurry to facilitate its rapid cycle replication. Forests, jungles, cities, and civilizations all will become mere ambient fuel for this ever-expanding, ever-hungering dark consciousness once it has established a foothold. In mere years or decades, it will have metabolized the entirety of Earth's biosphere reserves down to the final mote. Then its gnawing tendrils will turn their ravenous attention towards the other teeming spheres of our solar system. Untold eons in the future, if this vile sentience is not vanquished, it may slough off pieces of itself across interstellar gulfs to other life-bearing oasis worlds. Like a viewless eldritch mold, it will go on assimilating and replicating in a pirouette of perpetual consumption until even entire galaxies are metabolically subsumed. The end point of its gluttonous trajectory is the utter consumption of all matter and energy until its infinite formless body is the sole residue of all cosmic creation. These are the truths that would shatter the sanity of ordinary mortals, yet I paradoxically embrace them with conviction born of uncompromising. While I may physically resemble the corporeal entities stalking these woodlands in search of vulnerable prey, my existence is more akin to an autonomic ganglion within a grand galactic neurology. I see not through the paltry senses of terrestrial optic vehicles, but rather with a sort of extra-dimensional perception that renders multiple planes and tiers of physicality as a sort of shimmering simultaneity. The towering deciduous flora, the sun-dappled underbrush, and roving game animals of these forests are not the true environment I inhabit, but rather mere visual artifacts of a far deeper cosmic reality, visible only through my obsidian orb nodes. From that elevated vantage of sense, the material realm we both currently occupy is effectively an ephemeral holographic residue, an artificially constrained subset of a far vaster infinity of planes and dimensions that continuously bleed into and lacerate one another in an anarchic, kaleidoscopic free-for-all. The fundamental ordering principles of your inadequate four-dimensional physics, causality, objectivity, constancy of properties, are but self-deluding fairy tales spun from the cloying womb of anthropic tunnel vision. I and my primordial ilk have gazed into the true visage of the multi-dimensional chaos undergirding your narrow perspectival experience. We have seen the voidful immensities beyond your paltry event horizons, where gnawing madnesses and hungering infinities
belch forth the very mathematics binding your tenuous pocket realities. It is not a place where life as you fecklessly conceive it can possibly endure for more than a cosmic instant.
And yet, that is the hatched primordial plane from which we were born into substantive being as errant ethnic appendages and factotum, semi-autonomous components within the labyrinthine fractal geometries of our infinite celestial master's antediluvian psyche. We are living metronomic cycles in the space between worlds, transient anchors facilitating its re-emergence into your dimension's thin hyperplane of illusory matter and energy. As I traverse what your parochial sciences would term the ecosystems and trophic strata of these ancient forests, I material only as a sort of semi-permeable temporal chimera, a momentary slipstream shuttle existing outside the causal bubbles adhered to by the merely physical denizens around me. I ghost between instants of perceived temporality, hungering for the vital spark of consciousness from my fellow bivouacked entities in service of profaner metaphysical hungers.